Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 205 of Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast. As you all know, we are a Paul McCartney show dealing with the solo career of Paul McCartney, and we're going to do just that again today because, as you can see, we have a returning guest who we love having on the show. Before we get to him, Andy, good to have you back, my friend. It's Tom Hunyadi, it's Andy Nichols, it's Two Legs. We're just gonna get right into this because we're gonna spend a lot of time with Luca. But before that, we had Record Store Day, Andy, and you actually went out. You don't really go out that much for
No,
these, but you had a couple things you wanted to get, right?
I did. I'm not the record store day veteran and stalwart that you are. But when I do see a couple of titles that grab my eye, I'm gonna try to get it. The difference was this year the titles that were out there were not exclusive to record store day, meaning they're going to be available after record
Right,
store day. So I
right,
figured why not give it a shot? And hell, we've been talking about it all spring, especially at the fest, and had to get it, of course.
right.
Had to get the half speed master of Red Rose Speedway, and Stop and Smell the Roses, the colored
Right.
vinyl. I got that as
Now,
well, and that was it.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
a
I
lot
did get
of
the Blind
lot of
Man, the
What?
Blind Man from soundtrack 40 or that too. But Luca, what you were gonna say something?
no, just a joke. A lot of roses. I mean, red rose
Yeah, a
speedway.
lot of roses. Exactly,
Very,
exactly.
very astute observation. Yeah, Luca.
Yes,
It's all about
yes.
roses, right?
Now,
Um,
the funny thing here with the Red Rose Speedway is there. It said it was an exact replica of the
UK.
original. No, the U.S.
This look.
And you know what that means? You know what that means, right? When
What is
it's an
that?
exact, that means that it's not Lawrence Juber, but it's Lawrence Tuber.
Oh,
Oh
you're
yeah,
talking
The
about Stop and Smell the Roses.
Spell the Roses, yes, yes,
Yeah.
because they
I remember
misspelled his
that.
name on the original release of Stop and Smell the Roses.
And they did it
So
again.
they did it again here,
They did it again.
and it's
Lawrence, yeah.
Lawrence Tuber is on Stop and Smell the Roses,
Interesting.
but because they fixed it with the '90s CD release.
Yeah, the right
They
stuff
fixed.
CD, yeah.
Right, right, exactly. But then here, because it's an exact,
No, and I think as
it,
far as Red Rose Speedway, this is just a reproduction
right,
of the original UK.
right, yeah.
So
However, was the booklet glued to that, or because the booklet is I think it's inside the LP. It's not part of when you open the gatefold. It's not part of it. The gatefold.
it's I don't know, Luca.
Does
What's
that
your
make
take?
sense?
What's your experience? What's your knowledge on
uh,
this one?
if I'm not wrong, it was separate. It was not glued,
Oh, separate.
but,
Okay.
but it was my version, but my Italian version. I admit.
Okay. Right.
It was your Italian import. Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
know what was the original one. Never
Okay.
Did the
owned the
did
original.
did the Italian one have the braille on the back of it?
Um, I can't really remember. I have to check. Maybe
Hmm.
I have spotted another copy with a braille
Yeah.
on the back, but I got to go back and see.
Great.
Do you still have all your original McCartney and Wings records from when you were collecting, or did you kind of get rid of them, or did you still have them all?
No, I have everything I ever collected when I started,
Nice.
discovering McCartney's music. I have everything. I've never sold anything. I never will.
That's
That's
great. That's
and,
awesome.
yeah, and
That's awesome.
all do you have all kind of just local Italian? Do you have, Italian pressings, or do you have any UK or US or all just Italy?
Probably a couple of some UK. I think I have, especially for
Okay.
the singles. Maybe
Hmm.
not
Yeah.
for the LPs. I'm not sure because when I started collecting and buying the vinyl, they were Italian. But
Yeah.
then after a while, I switched to CD, and then
Hmm.
maybe I have purchased later some vinyl, and maybe they are UK or US
Mm.
print. I have to check.
Okay.
For
Okay.
the
Cool.
singles, I have always privileged UK or US printing over Italian. I don't think
Right.
I don't like having Italian singles.
All right.
No.
Okay.
What
Fair
and
enough.
Tom? Yeah,
Fair
Tom
enough.
also got some other items there on Record Store Day. There it
Got
is.
the Elton John "Don't Shoot Me" LP,
Two.
which if you haven't seen it yet, I'll show you what the vinyl looks like on this one. It is pretty cool, although I am getting tired of red vinyl, but
Yeah,
everything is red. But that's pretty cool. It's not
yeah.
bad.
And the Stop and the Smell the Roses is very similar too.
It's very similar as well. Again, more red. But I love it. I love Record Store Day. I love usually my wife and I we get out many hours before the store opens. We get in line, and we enjoy the night, and we enjoy the company too, because there's other people
Mm.
that hang out with us as well. But one more thing before we get with Luca. I'm wearing the latest two leg shirt, which a few of the fans saw at the Fest for Beatles fans earlier this month, and we still have a couple more left. Andy, what sizes do we have left?
We have a one medium, one large, and I believe one 2X shirt left, and we will get more made as well. So if you would like a shirt and you didn't get one, just send us an email at twolegspodcast@gmail.com and let us know your size, and we'll start putting a list together, and we'll have another run made of those as well. So if you didn't get them, just let us know. But we do. I have three left right now, as it stands in stock, as it were. So if that fits
One
your
medium,
size,
one large,
and one
one
2X. So
2X.
just send us an email if you want those, and if you didn't, we'll get more made. So thanks for those who supported us, those at the fest and getting them, and we're happy to have them for you.
Excellent. Okay, so the man of the hour, Mr. Luca Perasi. It's always great to see you. It's
Mm.
always great to have you on the show, talk to you, all that good stuff. And your latest book, Music is Ideas, it's out now. It's been out for a while, and it's almost kind of like a continuation or an update, if you will, of the Paul McCartney recording sessions, 1969 to 2013. How are you, my friend? Good to see you.
I'm fine, and thanks again for being part of your show. So I'm enjoying very much, not only being part, but also seeing other shows of your series. So thanks again.
Thank you. Yeah, no problem. Let's just start off with the new book. I mean, you had this out, you had the recording sessions out. What was your thought process? Were you going to do like a volume two of this in this style, or did you think, well, maybe in the future I'll update it and I'll do something more like this? I mean, what was your thought process of continuing what you had started though with the recording sessions?
Mm, well, at the beginning, I think the recording sessions was out in 2013, and
Hmm.
then but in the US in 2014, because it took some time for me to understand how to market it.
Okay.
Then yeah, I started thinking about a second volume on recording sessions dedicated to covers. So the Russian album, Kisses on the Bottom, all these songs that were not included in the book. Well, then it seemed to me quite, confusing. Or I didn't, I wasn't really convinced of releasing a volume two of a recording sessions, because the breakdown was kind of difficult. So I think in
Mm.
the around 2017, I thought about a book with all the songs, a book with all the songs, and doing something better in terms of translation, in terms of printing, in terms of structure. And that's what I did with this music is ideas, the stories behind the songs. Not having songs out, or not doing choices that can be understood, but in the end, I mean, I think this is really the only book out there which has the discography of Paul McCartney
Mhm.
in this volume until 1989. There's nothing really comparable out there with all
Right.
the
Yeah,
songs
I agree.
like it. So that was my final take. Let's do a complete book on Paul McCartney songs.
Right. And it is kind of a bit of a trend because there are other books out there that's focused on all the songs for other artists. Like there isn't all the
Yeah,
songs the Beatles, right? There isn't all the songs Bob Dylan, I believe, right?
Yes, there
Uh,
is. Well,
and
yeah, a
there's
little outdated,
one,
now, but yeah.
right, right. Yeah, there's one for I believe the Smiths as well. So there's others out there like this, but Luca, it's had to have been, I mean, a bit of a challenge because you've got the recording sessions out now. You're going back and you're only going to focus on the first 2 decades of Paul, and you didn't add unreleased stuff in your first book too. So now you're going
Right.
back and we're going to talk about some of those in a little bit. Because we're going to talk about some of the songs in here as well, because that's a great treasure trove right there. But the unreleased stuff too. Now you got to there's not a lot of writings about that. So you're starting from scratch on a lot of these unreleased tracks.
yeah. I thought that it was a great addition because we all know
Hmm.
that the unreleased catalog of McCartney. I mean, at least for what we can know about this, it's a big catalog. So it seemed to me quite interesting to have 50 separate sheets about unreleased songs and
Unreleased music,
talking,
yeah.
yeah, and talking about the songs in a different form with single dedicated sheets. It seemed to me quite interesting. Not only the official release song, but also 50 unreleased songs. I have chosen 50. Probably there are more. Well, sure,
Mm.
but 50 are the more structured. There are a lot of jams and demos and stuff.
Jingles.
Yeah, maybe with not so much to say. For this 50 songs, it made sense to include them in the book.
Luca, a question about covering the unreleased songs, and yen because you have the connection with MPL. Was there any hesitation on your part to talk about unreleased material, given your relationship with MPL? Did you think there would be any blowback, or don't write about these are unofficial songs, you can't talk about it,
We never thought we never talked about this, but I don't think so. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just it's just a description. There's some in some cases there are um, some nice snippet of information and stuff, but well, I never really thought about this aspect, to tell you the truth.
Which I'm glad you didn't, because I think if this had been 20 years ago, maybe it would have been a problem. But because the material is so widely available now via YouTube, anybody can go on YouTube and look up, Luxie or Squid or Lindiana and hear it. I mean, 20 years ago, if you were writing about it, maybe the perception would have been a little bit different.
Could be, but on the other side, maybe it's also useful to have the songs put on paper on a
Oh,
book.
yes.
Maybe you can say, oh, okay, we have because they have they have all the archives and stuff. Uh, Sometimes maybe talking about something could be useful. Who knows?
I'm willing to bet that people on his team are going to go to your book and say, "Oh, what did Lucas say about that unreleased track? We need to include it in a box set." Go to Lucas' book and
Who
see what
knows?
he says.
Let's hope it's like this.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. From the moment you decided to take to take this on, talk about the timeline. I mean, how long does something like this take you? Because again, you already have a bunch of the work done, right? Because you carried a bunch of the work over from the recording sessions into this project.
Yeah, although although the interviews and some sentences and stuff are in, it's always a long process because when you start thinking about another book, another structure, that takes time. So you know that we have an introduction for the album in the book. Then there's all the songs. Then there are other songs from the sessions, other songs from or unreleased songs. Singles. So to structure a book, it takes time. So I don't really know how much I spent on it, but I tell you, a lot of time. A lot of time.
Mm.
I cannot say 1 year, 2 years, something like that, because it was done in all over this period of 4 to 5 years.
Mm.
I can tell you when I finished. No, I mean it was finished at the end of 2022, basically. Then the last 2 months were spent on fixing stuff and adding little pieces. Then there was the McCartney Legacy um, out, and so
Mm.
it made sense to maybe to align some information to what they have
Mm.
found without spoiling the book. And but I mean, it's quoted. I mean, it's a great book. So I mean, it was a pleasure to read this and to add little pieces to a book which was ready at that time.
Mm.
Yeah,
Um, Andy, do you got a question?
I did. Luca, what was your decision to basically focus on the first 20 years and go from 70 to 89? Did you think? Did you think maybe I'll try to do 30 years, or should I do 10 years? Why the decision to go from 70 to 89?
Well, I basically I thought that one volume wasn't possible because it's over 50
Mm.
years of a career. If you wanna
Right.
wanna be detailed, it's not possible. So I said,
Mm.
okay, which is the to me the size, let me say, of the series that makes sense. And I thought 2 volumes, it's okay, because if you start doing maybe the 70s, then the 80s, then the 90s, and blah blah, and it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time also for people to collect these books. And so it's, to me, 2 volumes were my decision, and I have decided to break down this series in 1989, because it's a year when Paul went back on the road with the Beatles catalog.
Right.
Basically,
Mm.
that was my decision. So I want to break down the series in 2 parts, and that was my turning point. That was the reason
Mm.
why.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
It'll be very interesting, and I'm sure you already know this doing your research for Volume 2. Paul was so busy in the 90s with so many different projects, namely the anthology tying up the middle of the 90s. But in terms of his recorded activity, it'll be interesting to see what you put together in terms of fragments, demos, because his 1990s working pace was so scattered. You've got the anthology, you've got Linda, the end off the ground. So it's not as frenetic as the 1980s, just from
Well,
looking at it.
not right. Not only that, you also got the classical stuff, and you started doing the fireman stuff in the '90s as well.
So
Yeah,
busy, but in chunks of time. It'll be interesting to see when you get to like 1993, 1994, 1995, what his activity looks like then. When you get to that, it'll be interesting to see.
yeah. It's compared to the first 20 years. Let me say it's more difficult. It's
It
more
will be.
difficult. Yeah, for the reason that you have said now. So because it's scattered, because it's fragmented, because there's many projects running at the same time, and then maybe, and there are also, releases which are kind of, let's take, for example,
A leaf.
Amoeba gig.
Right.
We
Yeah.
we had live in Los Angeles at some point, but there was Amoeba Secret before. Then there was Amoeba gig in 2019. So you got to follow all these little things. Then there are, the concept of singles nowadays is a little bit different from
Then.
one that was. That was in the 70s and in the 80s. But still, Paul loves singles. So, for example, there's Hope for the Future was a single. It was a digital single, but it was out also on a 12 inches, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. Just to say something nice and curious, I will be including also the Skype emojis, because these little tracks are,
Hmm.
to some extent, are have been released,
Hmm.
on Skype, but they have been
Right.
released,
Yeah.
so they will
Hmm.
be part of the book. So there are
Okay.
a lot of things, and so I think the book is in a good state, but it would take some time. I think probably we will be out in mid 2024, something like that. And
Great.
we
Okay.
will
So
keep
we're looking
you.
at, yeah. Okay. And
Yeah,
I'm
so
sure you're already working on it now. You know,
yeah, no, but the
hard at
book
work.
is basically is done,
Right.
but I'm adding interviews and stuff. Trying to fix some gaps and stuff. So it takes time.
Yeah.
Luca, let me ask you a
Um.
question about your research methods, drawing upon what you've already known and the work you've done for the recording sessions book,
Mm.
incorporating that information versus trying to find new information. Going through the book, I see you have a lot of quotes in here. You've got stuff from the interviews you've done. How much new research did you have to do for this book, and how did you do that? Is that just scouring the internet? Is that going to the library? Is that like rocks back? I mean, I'm very curious on how you're pulling your sources to with not including what you've already done, but the new research.
Yeah, new research. Well, we have to consider that to put together a book like Recording Session, I have to give up to a lot of information. There's a a fantastic fanzine that we all know out there, which is Magazine.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And at the time, uh, I did have not much time to include information from Magazine at the time. So this time I took these fanzines, and tried to take more information, because there are a lot of information there. So the internet, obviously, it's always a good source. You got to be you got to be very curious, spend a lot of time. uh, the most interesting thing, I think, when you research on the net, is that uh, sometimes useful information come out by accident, because you combine words when you are searching on Google. You combine words following a certain path or a certain idea that you have in your head, and then maybe you don't find that much. Then you use other words and you discover something that you were searching for.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's really it's
Yeah.
really interesting. Then I got, obviously, my books, and also in this case, I decided to do. Although I had material from the previous book, I wanted to start with a fresh mind and say, okay, let's take this song and try to follow maybe a path that is more established, that is different from the one that I have used on recording sessions. Let's go back to this book, because I'm not sure I got it really, really right in the first place in recording session. Let's take out my assessment. Let's enrich them. Let's talk a little bit more about maybe the harmony of the song. Uh, let's go back to the live versions, or to the alternate versions, and let's see if there's something I missed. So it's a very composite process,
Okay.
Yeah.
but it's very I enjoy it very much. I mean, it's
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about. It's very enjoyable.
Yeah. Right. The the stories behind the songs aspect of it. Have you encountered conflicting stories for songs? Like, let's say, for example, thanks to the McCartney legacy, we learned about Live and Let Die. Paul likes to tell the story about Live and Let Die. It's not necessarily the right story, but it's a good story. So for that instance, do we still rely on his stories, or do we also want to have the most accurate stories as well?
Well, the best thing, I think, it's always to report both sides of the story. So when unless it's an obvious error, or
Right.
an obvious thing that someone remembers wrong, maybe the best
Mhm.
thing is to report both. In the case of Live and Let Die, I think I have added something after I have heard one of the
Mhm.
two authors of McCartney Legacy. I can't remember who was, but maybe it was on your show or something like that
Mhm.
before the book
Right.
was out. And I said, well, it's interesting because I can add a little piece. I said, well, maybe according to George Martin, that is,
Right.
or
That's right.
or,
Yeah.
or maybe this kind of thing. So when it comes to historical research, it's always good to have different sources, and if there's a conflict and you were not there, it's good to have both sides, and
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
uh,
I
that's what I like to do.
Right. That's great. Great. Okay. Well, let's get to a couple songs here because there's a lot of them here. And
Okay.
um I want to start with probably his biggest hit of the 70s. I think it was one of his most important singles because came out right as the US leg of the tour was starting, and that's Silly Love Songs.
Hmm.
And man, here he is recording an album in between two big tours. I mean, they're all the same tour, but and he's recording this album, in between, stops and breaks, and it's probably to me one of the most disappointing box sets in the archive series, right?
Mm.
Because we don't have many like demos or anything like that. And then you read, in your book here, it was, Jimmy was, I think, quoted saying, well, we only recorded what we needed for the album. There wasn't any, extra tracks, or there wasn't any, or a lot of time spent on a lot of
Yeah.
songs because they knew they had a deadline and they had to get this out before a certain time. So Silly Love Songs, here's this, near 6 minute song, and it's simple in a way, but it's also complex in a way. And it just, reading about it, I mean, it just looks like I mean, they tackled it like it was nothing, you know. Just
Yeah.
talk about that song for a minute because here it is. They laid down the basic track with just Paul and damn it, the drummer Joe English,
Yep.
and then they just built on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's well, to me, it's an incredible song because too often when people talk about still love songs, well, they I don't know, they maybe focus on the lyrics and stuff, but harmonically speaking, it's a piece of genius. I mean, it's not really easy to do what Paul does. So I mean, a song with all these melodies on top of each other, the structure, and putting out a song of which is nearly 6 minutes long, although it was edited for the singles and the radios, and at the time, it was a brave move, and it's a well, to me, great arrangement. A lot there's a lot of things going on Sea Love Song. So personally speaking, it's I, I I never get tired of this song,
Oh,
Oh,
nor do I.
really.
you can't.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that it was never played live after the Wings of
Yeah.
America tour. it's not that easy to sing. Um, we all know about the bass part.
Oh,
You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
well, I have a nice anecdote, which is personal, but I mean, it makes us understand again uh, how Paul is really an unparalleled genius. Well, it was 2007, and I have bought a book on with a 10 or 12 bass lines by Paul. And since I play a little bit of bass myself, uh, I, I said, okay, now I'm going to tackle C love songs. So there was a CD or a cassette, I can't remember, with the backing tracks without the bass part. You know, backing tracks, not the official ones, but redone in the studio by some group, without the bass line. And so I said, let me spend one day and trying to do and to add my bass part to this backing track. And I can tell you that, and I'm not very good, and I'm not such a
Yeah.
great musician, but at the end of the day, I was able to put together a quite acceptable bass line for Sea Love Songs. So I think if I did it, basically anyone can do this. The thing is, how can you think about a bass line like that? You know, how
Mm-hmm.
can you invent a bass line like that? That's a genius of Paul McCartney. I mean, it's a,
Yeah.
and it was even clearer to me after I was able to put down that bass line. You know what I
hmm.
mean?
Right. You also write that you feel maybe the inspiration for the song came from a
Mm,
Al Green song, "Sha La La" from 1974. And I mean I know the song and I love it. I think it's a great Al Green. Al Green is wonderful, and I can hear little similarities maybe in the brass and then at the opening orchestration.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean the arrangement to me it's in the sound and the part of the arrangement definitely owes something to this song, and we all know that Paul loves all green.
mhm.
So if you put together side by side the two songs, and when Shalala starts, you can definitely hear something that is on Still Love Songs. You know,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
strings and the brass and some parts. There's a little snippet of the bass. Maybe it's a guitar on the All Greens song, but there's definitely something. So there's never been revealed, but to me, there's some definitely some similarities, which is nice. I mean, it's
right.
two completely different songs, but we all know that when an artist is a great artist, he knows uh, where to draw his inspiration,
Right.
and why not? I mean, it's there's no plagiarism and nothing else. But it's there's a connection, and I think it's very nice.
All right. Cool. Andy.
Yeah, so I'm going to jump ahead to the 80s and a couple of unreleased tracks. And very curious if you've heard this unreleased track because, to my knowledge, nobody outside of Paul has, but you write about it. And that is the song that was written specifically for Linda called Linda. What can you tell us about that track? I mean, you've got some nice quotes from Richard Niles in here, um, but I'd like to hear your take on that track. And have you heard it?
No, unfortunately, not. As I write in the introduction, I have decided to include basically songs for which we have an audio track somewhere. In a couple of cases, I have decided to include unreleased tracks that have a certain importance, even though I never listened to these songs and this is one of the cases. I don't have a copy. Obviously, there's only one copy, according to Paul. Only one copy was pressed, but it was nice to have this specific entry, uh, specifically because I had this interview with Richard Nice and stuff.
Right.
So it was good to have, and it was a record that has a certain importance for Paul himself. So I thought it was good to have this entry in the book.
Documented, absolutely. Even though we don't know it, but we know it exists. Yeah, and you've even got the musicians on it too. So who knows? I don't think we'll ever hear it, but
No, probably not.
yeah. And then the other one I wanted to ask you about was something that Tom and I would really love to hear come out, and it's your next entry in that book, and that's Politics of Love. That's something that he was going to do with Peter Gabriel.
Yeah, that's another song that I never heard and no one ever heard probably. And there's a lot of rumors out there. Many years ago, I in the 90s, I run a little fanzine, Italian fanzine on Paul McCartney. That was called Paper McCartney at the time. And so in the same room, there was a fan club of Peter Gabriel, and they came to me and said, well, you know, that they collaborated and they did this stuff together. And there are rumors that this song was played live, but I don't know. I've tried to do some research, but there's nothing out there. So, but the interesting thing is that there was a quote by Peter Gabriel back in 2011 that I have reported in the book about it, which is interesting. And the other interesting thing, I know it's a little bit of spoiling it, but Paul and Peter got back together in the studio in 2018, which is something I have discovered by accident, really by accident, because I had to listen to a whole interview by Peter Gabriel. I'm a big fan of Peter Gabriel, as I've mentioned in some other episodes with you both, and so I have decided to listen to this interview I've never seen by Peter Gabriel, and in the middle of this interview, it talks about this thing being back in the studio with Paul again. And so I thought there was really, really nice and interesting to have also this documented, although we don't know nothing about it. We don't know exactly when it was recorded. I remember in 1986 there was a magazine, a weekly magazine in Italy that I bought at the time, and in this magazine, there was news about this collaboration by Paul McCartney and Peter Gabriel. There was some charity concert somewhere. I don't know. I don't have it at hand anymore.
It was the Amnesty International?
Something like, yeah, it could be. And there was a mention of Paul and Peter working on a song on the backstage, or who knows where. I can't really remember. But I mean, it's a holy grail, as I have written in the book.
Yes.
So, who knows? Because we're still waiting if there would be for an archive collection of press to play. Who knows?
They could do a thing where they just include it on there like they did with Pipes of Peace when we got It's Not On.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I know you talked about how that particular song was published in Blackbird Singing and with the words, but then we didn't actually hear it until the archive.
Right.
So maybe we get a case. Maybe we get a case of something like that, either for one of these songs, or who knows. That's the wonderful thing about the archives. Just when you think you've heard it all, you get dropped with something like It's Not On, and you're like, what is this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good stuff. A track that I love, adore. I discovered the song a couple years before the Venus and Mars box set came out, and that's a track that fans of younger fans of Paul who may not have gotten the box set of Venus and Mars might still not know this, but it's a track called Fourth of July,
Hmm.
and it's a track that he demoed back in 1970, never released until he got a call from Dave Clark, asking for a song for a new singer named John Christie, which is a fantastic track, and there's a single of it that you can still find, but just a wonderful, wonderful song in Fourth of July. And what are your thoughts on that one?
I fully agree with you, Tom. It's a wonderful song. The the thing is, it's a very sad song, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a
Mm.
very.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know what was the inspiration, or if this is linked to maybe a period where Paul was still recovering from the split of the
Mm,
Beatles. You know, that spring summer of '70. I think it took some time for Paul to fully recover, and by the time he went to New York to record Ram, I think he was full of energy. But
mm,
you know, maybe it's linked to his feelings at that period, because it's a sad song. It is not very common. I mean,
right.
Paul can do sad songs, but they are, most of the time they are tempered, a little bit tempered with a major chord here and there. You know, in this case,
Mm,
I can hear and feel sadness, but maybe it's you know, it's not nothing linked to his personal moment. Maybe it's just a sad song, and
Mm.
I don't know. It's a feel. Sometimes it could
right.
be nice for a composer to write a
Right.
sad song. That's it.
Right.
But it's a fantastic song.
Yeah, it
For
is.
sure.
And when you discover for us ugly Americans here, you think of Fourth of July, you think it's gonna. He's like, why is Paul singing about the Independence Day? Here in the States. I mean, who knows? Who knows? Again, there's not much written about or known about this. There's also during rehearsals for the James Paul McCartney show. There's a short snippet that can be heard as well. So if you haven't heard it yet, check it out on YouTube and listen to both versions because John Christie, I think, sings this song wonderfully
Yeah.
as well. And and it doesn't veer much from Paul's demo either. So that's a
No,
nice
it's
thing as
very
well.
very similar.
Yeah.
It's always nice when you have a version done by
Right.
someone else before you hear Paul's version. And Paul's version is, again, is very sad, but with this 12 string acoustic guitar was
Hmm.
fantastic. I mean,
Mhm.
Another great case in point of I did not know that song before the archives, and boom, we get Fourth of July as a demo, and it's just things
Right.
like that where you hear those little
yeah,
majestic and some writing sad songs is something that Paul is not. I don't think it's in his nature to be. He's much more optimistic, right? So when he writes something that's a little more mournful, it catches your ear and go, oh, he sounds
yeah,
sad here. What's going on? you know.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
One song I want to talk about. Tom and I broke T-Tac. He picked a couple songs in the '70s. I picked a few in the '80s,
yeah.
and I went right to the page when I got the book when you so kindly sent it to me because it's one of my favorite songs of all time, and I really enjoyed your entry on "Once Upon a Long Ago" and the anecdotes with Phil Ramone and
Hmm.
how that really didn't work out as a relationship between producer and artist. But it's amazing watching YouTube videos. Paul put so much effort into promoting that song in every country except America. There's loads of videos, Pop at the Top of the Pops. He did numerous video appearances miming that song. And then kind of, I guess, was that the focal point to maybe start a new album with Phil Ramone that kind of petered out? I mean, what could you? I mean, let's talk about Once Upon a Long Ago as a song and your feelings on it first, and then what was going to come after that, if you could.
Yeah. Well, I like this song a lot for a number of reasons. First, because it's a great song. I think it's a fantastic melody, arrangement. Oh man, it's there's so much in just one song. You know, there's vocals and the effects applied to the vocals. There's a orchestra. There's George Martin. There's a clean production by Phil Ramone. There's this incredible, there's a guitar solo, there's a electric violin solo, there's a saxophone solo, there's really a lot of things. And then I got quite a strong attachment to this song because it was all over the place at the time. And in 1987 I was 18, you know what I mean. So there's a lot of remembering, and Paul was also at the Sanremo festival in Italy to promote this song, and he mimed at the Sanremo festival at the time. So it was number 2 in the charts in Italy at the time, but it was number 2 around spring. So it had 4 to 5 months in the charts in Italy, and the video was all over the place, really. So I think it's one of my favorite songs, and I was very pleased to see this entry also in the lyrics, because to me it's very interesting what Paul says. According to some unofficial sources, the initial title was My Own Life Story, which I don't know. I mean, I didn't know if it was true or not, but if you read what Paul says in the lyrics, that makes sense, because it's a lot of his youth rememberings and stuff. So there's other information about the songs. I don't know if they are true, but they are on Wikipedia, and about which is the fact that it was due to be a duet with Freddie Mercury. I don't know if it's true, but I don't know if it's true. But it was worth to be in the song entry. I don't know why the sessions between Paul and Phil Ramone didn't work, because this song is incredible,
right?
And Phil Ramone was one of the best producers in the pop world. So I don't know what happened. It's described in part in the book. Different approaches. Paul was aiming to experimenting a bit with drum machines and stuff, which he did, because there's this song which is called Atlantic Ocean, which is from those sessions, and I think that was one of the songs that probably was not appreciated that much by Ramone, because it was capable to focus more on the songwriting. And when you work, Ramone had worked with Billy Joel, so when you got the chance to work with Paul McCartney, maybe you expect the same kind of approach, material, clean ballads, and this kind of things.
But it wasn't somebody that he goes back to Phil Ramone, as you mentioned in the book, back to Ram. Phil Ramone worked on Ram a little bit too.
Yes, I don't know. I think that mid 80s. Well, we are in early 87. That was after Press Play, and I think that the fact that Press Play was unsuccessful, at least as in commercial terms, probably had quite an effect on Paul. It took some time to me for Paul to recover and to understand what to do with his career. So it
But
was something in the middle.
it's amazing the fact that you've got, as you mentioned, Press to Play and Flowers in the Dirt, and in the middle of this period, you've got a song like Once Upon a Long Ago that was a smash hit in Italy and other European countries. Did so well, and then it just gets buried and forgotten. Like since that time, it's so remarkable that a song that is so good, that it just gets buried and forgotten. Incredible.
Incredible. And now I got a question for you too, because we know that it wasn't out in the US as a single.
Right.
Do
Right.
you have an answer? So there's a reason to you why it wasn't released. So it was not suitable really for the US market, or it's not. I mean, I can't understand from here maybe.
Who makes that decision? Somebody at EMI. I mean, we're not going to put this out in America, really.
Or as
I don't know.
Capital, I mean, Capital could have said something, or because what? I mean, all the best came out on Capital here in the U.S., right? I mean, they could have felt like it wasn't, worthy of a U.S. single either. But at least you could put it on the LP. You don't have to, you don't, give us it
Well, they
that
put it
way.
on. It's on the UK. All the best.
On the UK, but yeah, but we still didn't get it on as a single or on the US All the Best.
No.
So
I, I
that's
had
unfortunate.
I have another little anecdote about it. So there was one day I went to a record shop, and all of a sudden I see this All the Best. I said, "Oh man, this is new," and I didn't know that it was going to happen. At the time, no internet, nothing. So
Right.
I said, "Well, I got to go back tomorrow because I don't have money with me,
Yeah.
enough with me now." So I went back the following day, and so I noticed there was only one original new song in the LP. So what I did, instead of going back home and putting the vinyl and listening immediately to
Right.
Once Upon a Go. No, I just decided to go through all the songs, and I think that all Once Upon a Go is the 10th song in the vinyl version or something like that. So I have waited, and I've heard, listened to Jet, Band on the Run, because I didn't want to lose the moment and say, well, I'm going to wait until the
Right.
10th.
That's
That's
great.
yeah. You were patient. I think I would have
Right.
just she said, okay, I'm going right to the new song. Boom.
Right.
It was not easy to decide. It was not
I tell you.
an
Right.
easy decision.
Yeah, but it'll be really interesting to see how Once Upon a Long Ago is included in another set. Is it Press to Play? One archive and because there's lots of edits of Once Upon a Long Ago. You've got the single version, you've got the extended outro version, the 6-minute one, which has the extended
Right.
violin solo on it, which Nigel Kennedy plays so great on that. So I'll
Right.
be, again, so marketed and so much work done on it, and then it just drops off the face of the earth.
Yeah, that's a good and bad. Let me say with Paul, when you have so many songs. Well, for us, it's a classic. Maybe within this incredible career, it's considered, I don't know, a footnote, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's another song that deserves to be
Well,
discovered.
it's more than a footnote in this book. Let me tell you.
No, I have dedicated a couple of pages there. So
Yes.
Well, it's funny because it's funny how you mentioned that. It's kind of like a footnote, or it was released and now it's forgotten. Okay, I mean, you look at other tracks that were big hits that are just seem like it's no big deal. I mean, Spies Like Us. I mean, that was a top 10 hit here in the U.S., and it just seems like it's whatever. It's no big deal. The one though that does get, I feel, some love from him because he did release he reissued it a couple years ago, and that was the We All Stand Together. Now maybe that's just because he's got emotional ties in, or it's nostalgia for him, just because he loves he
Rupert.
loves Rupert the Bear. But it is funny how he picks and chooses what he takes with him, from his catalog. So it's pretty
Yeah,
interesting.
it's interesting. Well, I agree with you. Spies Like Us was quite a success at the time. I well remember. I was following the UK charts. There was a couple of uh, TV programs in Italy that were showing the UK charts, and so I was always very curious to see how Paul performed with these songs. And so it was number 13, I think, in the UK at the time. Uh, well, maybe we must admit that Spies Like Us has got a production style that is
Right.
maybe more,
80s.
linked to the 80s
Mm.
compared to, well, We All Stand Together has got a different quality. And as you
Right.
say, linked to Rupert, it's a sentimental thing for
Right.
Paul, maybe, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Um, Andy, if I'm going to read the first sentence here
Mhm.
from the book here, and you tell me what song you might be thinking or he might be writing about, and
Okay.
it's perhaps the real gem within McCartney's unreleased catalog. What song do you think he might be talking about in the
Luca?
70s?
For the
Yes,
seven, he's probably, if I had to guess, he's probably talking about Water Spout.
you're absolutely right, my friend. And connecting with All the Best, another track that was at the last minute pulled. I mean, here's a song he worked on in 77, then again in 81, and then again for possibility or contention for the All the Best.
Yeah.
A wonderful, wonderful song. I mean, you're right. I mean, this is a gem of a song, Luca. Just a gem of a song.
Definitely, if it was published in the 70s, it would have been a hit for
Hmm.
sure. I don't know in the 80s, but probably in the 80s could have been not suitable for the 80s. But
Mm.
in the 70s, it would have been a hit.
Wow.
No way. No way. I mean,
Right.
I won't spoil it this time, but I have written something about the rhythm part of Waterspout that reminds me of something uh,
Mhm.
connected to Nigeria. So I'll
Yes, I was
let
just
the readers
right.
discover maybe what I'm talking about, because also in this case I have discovered myself by accident,
Mm,
uh, and I can hear a strong similarity similarity
right.
between Waterspout and this other song, which I won't mention.
Mm.
Yes, I mean, if you know the Nigeria story, you'll know
Yeah.
who
You
he's
know what?
referring
You know who
to.
he's referring
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But go ahead,
Luca,
Andy.
what was your first exposure? When did you first remember hearing Water Spout? 80s, 90s?
In the 1987, because I think I had a bootleg that my brother bought. I don't know where. There was I can't really remember the name of the bootleg, guys. I'm getting older, so sorry about that, but I can't remember. But on this bootleg, there was a 2 minutes and a half version of Waterspout.
Oh.
There was not a full version. It was cut in the middle. But man, I have heard this song a lot of times because I could not believe it was an unreleased song.
Right.
Could not believe it.
Yeah. You just hear that and you're like, this song did not get released. I mean, and there's loads of versions of it now. There's fold down mixes and there's monitor mixes and that I've heard, just throughout my collection. But a song like that, is how does it not go on London Town? It makes you laugh.
Melody is
Yes.
fantastic. Melody is fantastic. Well,
Yes.
I mean,
Well, if it had come out, do you think it would have predated? Do you think he would have pushed it out as a single before Mull of Kintyre, or would where do you think if it? I mean, depending on when it was written, if it comes out, does it predate Mull of Kintyre and Girls' School? Does it come out after? I mean, it would probably before. You would think, right? It would have been a nice follow up after Silly Love Songs and before With a Little Luck to throw Water Spout out there.
yeah, I think maybe before Mull of Kintyre, but who knows? Because after Mull of Kintyre, there was With a Little Luck.
The Little
Right.
Luck. Yeah.
Right.
That's a kind of pop song, which to some extent, let me say, it's similar in the mood
Yes.
to something like Waterspout. So
Right.
and the audience was very keen on buying, With a Little Luck, and was a number one in the US.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah.
In both before or after. I think 77 or 78 would have been a hit.
Yeah. See, because here's the thing. Maybe I'm amazed the live version comes out in February of '77. Okay, and then Mull of Kintyre comes out in November of '77. So you have, good span of time to where maybe you can fit that, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Well, it was as Lucas said, it was demoed in the summer of '77. So if it came out, it would have been in '78. Probably wouldn't have been '77. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
We don't know
But
now.
then there's really not a lot of time in between Mull of Kintyre and With a Little Luck. I mean, Mull is, like I said, November of '77. With a Little Luck is then March of '78.
'78. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, if I'm not wrong, Waterspout was overdubbed in the summer of '77. So it depends what kind of arrangement Paul had in mind, because it's a quite a bare arrangement, right?
Mm.
If we assume that it's a definitive one, who knows? But it's kind of a bare. There's drums, percussion, synthesizer,
it's a
something like
percussion
that.
heavy song. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
the
you
last.
don't think you don't? Well, go ahead, Andy.
No, go ahead, Tom.
No, I'm saying you don't think it would have done well, like if he does put it on All the Best. You don't think it, and they do release as a single. You don't think it does well in '87
I
as a
don't know.
single?
I don't know. For me, melody is timeless. Arrangement needed a bit of work to put it out in the '80s. Well, if you compare it to Once Upon a Long Ago,
Right.
I mean, that's something. That's something.
It wouldn't have been. It would have needed, as Luca. It would have needed a little updated production touching, which obviously on it, but which Once Upon a Long Ago did. But it's interesting to look at those two songs as, hey, let me throw these on All the Best possibly. I mean, obviously you've got down here work is done on it in January of '81 for overdubbing for Cold Cuts. So it was it was revisited multiple times, and still it is not officially issued in 2023.
We're still waiting. Who knows? We are patient.
We are.
Yeah. Well,
Yes,
we have
yeah.
to be patient. We have to be patient. It's been what, 5 years now since the last archive release.
3.
Is it
3 years.
No, 3.
3.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. 3 years
5.
since the last archive release. Do we think this is going to continue, Luca, or do we think? I mean, it's not profitable. If Capitol doesn't think this is profitable, they're probably going to, say, well, we
Well,
gave it the old college try, Paul, but maybe
well,
we got to it.
I don't know if they are going to continue. I would love, obviously, about the fact that it should be profitable. I think it makes sense, because you can always say, well, okay, you're Paul McCartney, you don't need money, blah blah. But in the end, when you put together a project, you cannot do this kind of things without looking at the profits. No matter if you are Paul McCartney, if you got a lot of money,
Right.
This kind of projects, you have to be profitable. My take is that it seemed to me quite unlikely, but maybe I'm wrong. So it's only my feeling. It's only my thoughts. Uh,
Mm.
it's unlikely that this kind of series stops without Mall of Kintyre, which is the biggest hit
Right.
McCartney had, uh, without Good Night Tonight,
Yep,
which
there you go.
it's there are these are two songs. You can write a book
Mm.
only taking these two songs. Well, Mall of Kintyre, you can write a book. You can write
Yeah.
a
Right.
half of an archive book on Mall of
Yeah.
Kintyre.
Mull of Kintyre, Mull of Kintyre, Good Night Tonight, and With a Little Luck. Those are three huge hits
Yeah.
that could be bundled in this. And if it is done, great. But I do think it should round it out with the Wings period and just put it to bed. Then, if you're not gonna continue it on and do other packages like Press to Play or
Well,
Off the Ground, just release the last two Wings
right.
albums and shelve it.
Mm-mm. I hope so. I hope so. But there's always a lot of things going on now. There's a documentary on the
Yes.
70s, and
Yeah.
well, maybe I don't know. This documentary will replace the fact that there are
Mm.
two missing archives. Maybe it will draw more attention
Well,
the Wings
yeah.
period. Maybe we will have the archives
Mm.
Yeah.
after. Who
Okay.
knows?
Yeah. Well, the sad thing is that these two albums remain out of print, which is it's just a shame. I mean, I don't think any McCartney record should ever be out of print. I
No.
mean, even if you don't continue the archive series, at least release them on vinyl or CD now. So then, or we got to wait until what 77 and 78 for the 50th anniversaries. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or 79. I'm sorry, 78 and 79.
Mhm.
For
For
50th,
the half
well,
speed
for a
master.
half
Yeah, for the half
speed
speed
master.
master. It's just those albums deserve more respect than what they're getting.
The the other fact is that McCartney is still active, is still recording,
Yeah.
is still planning new albums. So it's not an artist that you can say, okay, we need archives, we need
Mm.
back catalog. So it's always difficult for him to squeeze this kind of things, because he got other projects, and so the plan is very difficult. I mean, you got to plan these things in advance. Then maybe there are other projects that come,
Right.
or they got interested in other things. But I really hope that they will come out. Really, really hope.
Right.
Agree,
Oh
and
yeah.
we've heard
But
rumblings unofficially that Back to the Egg is done, and we've heard dribs and drabs through back channels that it's done and it's just sitting and waiting for the time to be right. So hopefully that's true.
Yeah, I've heard it too. I think I don't know if Lawrence Juber mentioned something
Yeah,
way back, which makes sense, because we maybe we think that this kind of archives are produced in a limited amount of time, but interviews and stuff. I think they are planned
oh yeah.
way in advance.
yeah.
So I think it's a matter of choosing the right time.
Yep.
Right. So yeah. So Luca, good on you on the series. Let people know. Well, first before that, we've got a hardcover coming out soon, right?
There's a hardcover
Or,
coming out hopefully next week. Yes.
Also, quick shout out. Love the publishing name, Lily Publishing. Love that, Lily. There's a little throwback for you Ram folks with that, little publishing credit. With nice job, Luca, with that.
Yeah, that's a nice name for a publishing uh, company, right?
Yeah, it is. Actually, one quick final question before we wrap it up, Luca. Did you have to get any permission for the images in the book, like any of the images you've used, some of the
promotional
promotional?
stuff. Yeah.
No, the photos, yes,
Yes,
but the images, no, I don't. I don't
great.
think it are widely available. Are not you're not spoiling anything, or you can use. I think there's a couple of laws out there who allow you to use um, not high resolution photos of record covers and stuff. But I didn't include record covers because to me it doesn't make sense. If you have a maybe full color book, then it could be good. But if you have a black and white book, then we all know the record cover
Yeah,
of the albums and
you
stuff.
do, and you took an opportunity to include some really nice promotional material here. Like take a look at like the London Town images here. This is great stuff. Fantastic. That you wouldn't see elsewhere. So yeah, you know the album artwork, but to see the promotional stuff that you've included here was a great job.
Yeah, for all of us who, I mean, sleeves are available widely, and this kind of promotional things not. So it's kind of very nice to go back and show to everybody what was done at the time, because there's a little pieces of art. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
So the paperback is out now. It's been out for a little while now. The hardcover is hopefully going to be out as this episode is posted on Saturday. Was it the 29th or 30th? 30th,
It'll be
or
the
what is it?
29th. This is on now.
29th, right. So we definitely recommend you guys pick up, Music as Ideas. Luca Perasi has knocked it out of the park again. Wonderful book. Part 2, as he said, should be out in 2024, right? And at some point in 2024, you won't have to wait as long as Lewison's Tune In for part 2. So we thank him for that. And but Luca, let people know where they can get the book.
It's on Amazon all over the world, and also on Barnes and Noble.
Okay. Oh, Barnes and Noble as well. Great. And that should be for the hardcover as well.
This should be, yeah. It would take time on Barnes and Noble, but it will be soon out on Amazon next week. Yeah.
All right. So, lastly, when can we get you to the States to do some book signings? I mean, I'm sure people would love to meet you, or do we have to fly to Italy to
Well,
let's think about it.
I'm going to Italy in the summer of 2024 for 2 weeks. So
Really?
yeah, yes, I am.
Where?
Excellent.
All over. I'm hitting all the big cities. All over.
That's
You
awesome.
will be my guest.
Well, when the time comes, we'll link up. Yeah,
over.
yeah. I'm looking forward to not this summer, next summer. So yeah, I will look forward to that meeting. Absolutely.
Yes.
That would be excellent. You will have a fantastic time. Fantastic time. Can people find you on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, stuff like that?
Yeah. Twitter is my privileged means of communication these days. So I got a page on Twitter, which I'm quite active. So I suggest Twitter is the best thing. But there's a Facebook page for the book as well. There's a little website as well. If you want to spell the website, it's on the first pages.
And it'll be in the description of our video below. The link for Luca's website, his Facebook page, and the Amazon link is below. So click and buy, please.
And there's also an Instagram page. Yeah.
Right.
And we'll have all those links below.
Very good. Well, let's help support Luca. Well, let's continue to get these books out. So let's buy a copy, please. And I bought this one, so you should do the same. So Luca, great. Andy, you got anything going on, or before we take off?
Not much, just lots of music to listen to and lots of reading to catch up on. I still have to make my way through the 7-inch singles box set for an episode review on that. So I have all my work cut out for me. So if you don't see me for a while on my other stuff, that's why. So Thomas, how about you guys with your Talk More Talk show?
Yeah, well, Talk More Talk will be back on May 1st. We will be doing a Red Rose Speedway 50th anniversary show. So join us there on our YouTube channel, Talk More Talk. So please check that out. And also, please, if you haven't subscribed, you're watching for the first time, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast, as we are getting closer to that 2,000 um, goal, 2,000K subscriber goal. And I also got another, as I showed last week, I'm going to put the McCartney legacy in there. I also got another piece here, extra piece here that I got here. This is the Bruce McMouse little promotional poster there. This will be part of the giveaway as well. So the giveaway will just to keep expanding every week until we hit that 2K goal. So be on the lookout for that. So everybody, thank you. Join us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Two Legs Podcast. Like I said, check out the YouTube channel, Two Legs, a Paul McCartney Podcast. All the audio people, thank you for watching us and subscribing on the audio channels. That keeps on getting bigger and bigger. So we appreciate you guys. All the new subscribers on YouTube, thank you. Keep those comments coming. We love them. Luca, my friend, it's always good to see you. I'm sure we'll see you again in the future. We love having you on, and we love having your picking your brain, getting all your thoughts for all these wonderful songs. It's always good to see you.
Thanks a lot, guys. Really a pleasure.
You got it. Good. So as always, everybody out there, have a good day and a beautiful night. Or I should say great day. What the hell? What am I thinking? I'm still tired. Get out of here, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Listening to Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast, hosted by Tom Hunyadi and Andy Nichols, with musical contributions by Dylan C.